Welcome to Spine Chilling Stories, where you hear true stories around the world that are both chilling and creepy. So let's dive in. The Windigo Lake. In the winter of 1903 in northern Minnesota was one of the harshest regions I've ever seen. The snowdrifts buried the pines, and the wind cut out like a knife across the lake, where a crew of lumberjacks had been sent to work. Their camp was situated near Star Island, home to the eerie and isolated Lake Windigo, a place the local people refused to go near after the dark. Some people say because of the legends. Others believed it because of the dark entity that lived there. When a person from the city area goes to this place, he started dismissing the stories, calling the locals superstitions, even when the local elder warned them before they set up the camp. The lake is cursed, the elder had said. A Windigo sleeps beneath it. Do not wake it. It calls danger. It has been cursed. No matter what you say, whoever goes after the dark will suffer. The man laughed, shaking their heads. The lumberjacks didn't believe that. They thought this old man was crazy, old. And because of his old age, he's telling the stories. Child's play. By the time the full moon rose over the frozen lake, the laughter would be gone. Paul Dunham was the youngest of the lumberjacks, only 21 years old. That night, as the others drank and played cards in the cabin, Paul stepped outside to go to relieve himself. The wind howled through the trees, and somewhere in the distance, a long, bone-chilling cry echoed through the woods. He turned to the lake, eyes reflected pale glow of the moon, casting a long shadows across the snow. Then, at the edge of a tree line, something moved. A tall, skeletal figure stood between blackened trunks. Its skin, it was stretched tightly over its bones. Its empty eye sockets were glowing with sickly yellow light. Paul felt his breath hitched, his body frozen in place as the thing tilted its head unnaturally, as if it was listening. And then it moved. Paul stumbled back inside, slamming the door shut. The other man laughed at his pale face, thinking he had some accident, until he choked out what he'd seen. The laughter died instantly. Moments later, a deep, unearthly howl cut through the night, this time closer. Men grabbed their axes and rifles, peering through the forest-covered windows. The trees swayed violently through the wind had been died down. And then a voice called from the dark outside the cabin. Paul, come outside. It was his own voice, distorted, distant, and unsettled. By sunrise, Paul was gone. His coat was untouched. His boots were missing. The only sign of him was trail of footprints leading onto the frozen lake. But they stopped abruptly in the middle of thin ice. No cracks, no holes, no nothing, no sign of protest, anything. There was no sign of fall at all. Man spent hours searching, but the snow-covered expanse offered no answers. The only wind howled in response. That night, as the men lay awake in their cabins, the screaming began. Long, deliberate strokes of claws against the wood, screaming, scratching. Then come a whisper. Come outside. Come outside. Let me in. I'm cold. Come outside. Let me in. I'm cold. It was Paul's voice, but it didn't feel right. It was distorted, wrong, unnatural, as if it didn't belong there. The men clutched their axes, their rifles, their crosses. No one spoke. No one dared to move. Then a loud crack shook the palace. That as if something massive had slammed into the roof. The windows rattled, the door bowed inward, and then a silence. By the morning, the cabin door was torn open. Clawed marks gushed deep into the wood. The remaining lumberjacks fled that day, leaving their equipment, their supplies, even their wedges behind. They never returned to that cursed lake of Windigo. To this day, Lake Windigo remains quiet, frozen under the weight of years, waiting someone to appear. But those who wander too close reports hearing whispers in the wind, and some claim to have seen a gaunt, shadowy figure lurking at the dock, watching, waiting for the next soul to step on the thin ice of Lake Windigo. For more stories like this, keep watching the spine-chilling stories.